All right, hey guys. So last time I was thinking about I was planning to directly go into Unity and then use C Sharp in Unity, and then like as we do Unity, I could also teach C Sharp along the way. But I think that's like a horrible approach. So instead of doing that, before we go into the Unity and doing everything on Unity, I just want to like introduce some basic C Sharp stuff. I think like if we just get the basic C Sharp stuff down, once we're doing like coding later on in Unity, I think it would be a lot easier to understand. So for today, at least for the beginning of today, I want to cover basic C Sharp concepts. Make sure to really get this down, or at least the fundamentals down. Just practice a little bit on your own, and then Unity would be a lot easier. It'd be a lot easier to make games later on. So, okay, so all you gotta do to download is, you just go to google.com, type in Visual Studio Code, go to the first website, and then just click download for Windows, and it should be downloading. Yeah. So for me, it's downloading right here, and then I just open the file. After that, just click on I accept the agreement. They're not doing anything sketchy. Press next, and then press next, and then yeah, you don't need to do any of that. I can also create desktop icon, but finish. Alright, so I like light mode, so I'm going to use light mode. After you installed VS Code, you also want to install C Sharp, because that's what we're using. So we got extensions over here, and usually should give you the most popular options here. There's also recommended. I was using C Sharp before, so it's going to recommend that. But if you just go to the search bar and just type C Sharp, it should appear. And then you just go there and you just press install. And yeah, it installed for me. It might take a bit longer for you, if it's like your first time installing it. So yeah. Okay, so once you downloaded the C Sharp, you have to download just one more thing now. So go to your browser and then go to this link called .net.microsoft.com/en-us/download. Okay, once you get here, you want to download .NET SDK x64, and if you're on Mac OS, the same thing really. So just click download, and then it's gonna download, an installer. And then just click on the installer or downloads up here, and it should something should pop up saying like, do you want this to do you allow this to affect your computer, or like, are you okay with it installing on your computer? You just say yes and just click install. So just say yes to all of that. Once you say yes to all of that, just close down Visual Studio once and then open it back up. Alright, so once we're done with all of that, we can finally get to the coding part. And so to get to the coding part, what we got to do is we got to open a new folder. So come to File, and then click on Open Folder, and then come to Desktop, and then here we can create our own folder. So just left click, and then say New, and then Folder, and then here we can just name it anything. So I'm going to say like Coding Before Unity, and then click on the folder itself, and then now select folder. So now we have our Coding Before Unity on the Explorer right here. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to open up our own console. So to open up our own console, basically console is where you can type your code and then you can run your code, right? So we go to New Terminal and then New Terminal. And here we would just want to enter the framework that we just downloaded. And so we just downloaded what's called Net 6.0. So we do .NET, and then we do New Console, and then we can do dash dash framework, and then you do net 6.0 because we just downloaded 6.0. Honestly, the versions before 6.0 are better, but for some reason Microsoft is no longer allowing that to run on Unity, so we can just stick to 6.0. So press enter, and then it succeeded. So on the right you can see the program.cs and then coding before Unity .cs proj. There should also be a bin and something else that should appear over here. If that doesn't happen, just keep waiting like a minute or 2 minutes. There should be a like icon that pops up on the right, and just press yes, and then those should pop up as well. And then before you continue, you also have to type one more thing. You have to do .net and then build. Or actually, click on the program.cs first. So once we're on the program.cs, we come here again. Oh yeah, there it is. Just click yes on the side. Okay, so we have our bin in our object folder. Okay, so at the bottom we have to do .net and then build. Okay, so everything's up to date now, and the build succeeded, so we can successfully run our code. So we can actually clear all this on the bottom. So now it's like clear. It's now to run your code whenever you want to run any code. This is with C# on VS Code. Depending on like what you're using, it's different. But on VS Code for C#, just do .net and then run. And then there we go. That's our code. That's all we had typed so far. So now let's cover the basic concepts for C#. Alright, hey guys. So now that we've done all those steps, let's cover first the main variables we need to know. So the variable types. Usually in C# there's like 11 to 12 different variable types, but usually like only like 4 to 6 of them are used. So we're gonna cover 4 right now. The most like 4 important ones. So let's do that right now. And before we do that, let's just look at the common syntax of C#. So whenever we're like outputting some code in C#, it always starts with like code.writeLine. I mean, I'll show you examples like after this, obviously. And then there's you're gonna have to use quotation marks whenever you're like outputting text. But let's say you're outputting like a variable or things like that. You don't need the quotation marks. And then at the end, you always have to have a semicolon. So like for example, we have console.writeLine parentheses hello world here. So if we just do like .net and then run, it's gonna print hello world. So let's see if we want to add another one, we can just do console.writeLine and then like I love C# and semicolon, and then Control S to save, and then .net and then run. So now you get hello world and I love C#. But instead of writing it in this format, let's convert it to another way. So if we click on this line, an icon right here pops up. It says show code actions. Just click on that and then say convert to program.main. Okay, now that we've converted to program.main, we should change some things. Get rid of the internal right here, and then also change the private to public right here. Basically, the private and public are referring to like if you're able to connect the code to other classes, and changing it to public allows you to connect class program to other classes that you make later on. That's not that important right now, but it might just be useful to know. Don't worry about these other things. Just keep it there for now. Okay, so let's clear over here, or let's Control save first, and let's clear. All right, so if we do the same thing as we did before, .net and then run, it would print out hello world. Okay, so now let's review the variables. So the first type of variable that there is the integer variable, and the way you represent integer variable is by saying int, so just int, and then you want to assign this int to some like name that you create. So like I can say like age, or I could say like height, that's just the name you can assign that integer variable to. So let's just say age for now. So if I assign integer to age equals to, let's say 10, control save, and then if I want to print out this, I could do console.writeLine, and then just age, and then control save again, and then .NET, and then run. So we have the hello world from before, and we also have the 10 that we just did right now. So let's say we can also add another one. Let's do like int and then like height. So like I'm like 58 inches. So then we can do console dot write line and then height. And then we control S, so we save, and then do .NET run. So we still have the 10 from before, and we have a 58. So that's the first type of variable that we're going to cover. And also, if you do // it's like a comment, so you can just type whatever here, and it won't go in the code. So now let's go to the next section, next variable type. Okay, so now let's cover what's called a double. So before, when we were doing integers, we could only do like whole numbers, but when we do doubles, we could actually have decimal points and things like that. So if we do double and then say like I don't know, just like something random, like teaspoons or something. And then we can do is equal to 5.4249, and then however many numbers you want, and then semicolon at the end. And we can do console dot write line, and then we can do teaspoon. Okay, control S and then .NET and then run. So as we see, we still have the integers from before and the other text we typed before, but now we also have the Boolean variable that we just made right here. So that's the second type of integer variable. Or sorry, that's type of variable. That's the second type of variable. Now let's go to the next one. So now let's cover what's called Boolean. So Boolean is basically like if something is true or false, right? So let's cover Boolean. So let's do how you say Boolean is BOOL. So BOOL, and then is we could say like, am I human? And if that's true, equal true. And then now we can actually print that out as well. So we do console dot write line, and then am I human? So now if we run this right now, control S, and then if we run, so .NET run, it results in true at the end over here because we assigned am I human to true. So when we run it, it's going to result in true. But let's say I change that to false, and if I control S and then I do it again, so if we do .NET run again, it should result in false at the end. So that's what happened. So, and then for the last one, we're gonna do what's called strings. Strings is very important. You should also know this. So let's do strings right now. So strings is basically, like the text we did before, but it's like another way of writing it. Instead of just like writing it like this all the time, we could actually represent it a different way. So like for example, let's say we have string. So at the beginning now you say string, string. Okay, string, and then let's say my school. Okay, so I go to Chattahoochee High School, so CHS. So you're assigning string to school, and then now if I want to print that out, I do console dot write line, and then I can do school. So now let's control S, so we save it, and then now we can run it again. So we can do .NET run, and then see at the end we have CHS. So we can change this to anything else too. So let's say we change the school to like name or something, and my name is John. So now if I say I have to change this here as well from school to name. So now if I control S and then I run it again, .NET, and then run, it'll result in my name again. So that's John. So those are the 4 main variable types. Let's try and explore this a little bit more. Just play around a little bit. So let's say instead of all this, we just had two okay, let's say we had int a is equal to 49, right? So we assigned the value of 49 to a, which we also assigned integer value to. Now let's assign another integer value to another variable. So let's assign integer to, let's say, b, and then now b is equal to 20. Okay, so now we can actually like compare these two. So what we can do is say console.writeLine, and then we can do a greater than b, right? And then at the end we just do the same semicolon and then control S. So now what's gonna happen? Basically we're saying a greater than b. So what's gonna appear here? So let's check it out. So if we do .NET run, what are we gonna get? We're gonna get true. Now why is it true? It's true because a, which is 49, is greater than b, which is 20. But let's say we switch that around. Let's say we made b 49. We made b 40 and like a 20. And now if we control save and then .NET run again, and now if we check over here, we're gonna get false. Instead of assigning it and then comparing it like that, we could also do it another way. We could also do it like console.writeLine, and then we just compare the numbers right here. So it's like 20 greater than 49. And if we do .NET run, we should get false, 2 falses, and that's what happens. So now why is learning these variable types important? Like I can just give you a quick example. Like let's say when you have like 2 bodies in Unity, so like 2 objects, right? Now what you want to do is whenever one of those objects hits another object, you want to make sure they bounce off each other, right? So you can write things like if this body like hits this body, then like move away from each other, and you write that in lines of code. And now the thing I just talked about is called like if-else statements, and I'm going to cover that right now in a few minutes. So that's it for variable types right now, and let's go to the next part. Okay, so now we're going to cover what's called functions. They're also known as methods. A lot of people use them synonymously, so if you hear me like mixing them up from time to time, they mean the same thing. It's not really a big deal. Okay, so now what is a function or a method? Like, what is it useful for? Now, why these are so amazing is because you can use them wherever, and it makes things so much easier when you're coding on a big scale, right? So let's give an example real quick. So let's say instead of like typing code in here, we can create our own type of method. So let's say let's try to make our own method. So let's say in this method or function, we want to have, we can have any type of output. But let's say for this example, we want an output that's true or false. So that means we can create a Boolean in the beginning, and let's call this cool function. Cool function. And now it can take it. You can make it take an input like a parameter. So whatever you put in the parenthesis is called a parameter. And in this example, let's use a parameter. So let's say we have int I. So we're going to take an integer as the input. And then what's going to happen is is going to return if I is less than 21. Or we can make it any number, but I just said 21. So now what is going on right here? So basically what this is saying is that we're going to have an output that's a Boolean, which means it's going to be a true or false. And our function's name is coolFunction, and our input is integer I. So that's called a parameter. So our parameter is going to be like a number. And then if the number is less than 21, it's going to return true. But if it's greater than 21, it's going to return false. In front of all of this, you're going to have to put static. We don't need to, let's not get into the reasoning right now, but let's just put a static for now, okay? Because it's over there, so just also put static over here. Okay, so now let's try to reference this method that we just created. So how are we going to do that? So let's say if we want to reference it, we're going to do coolFunction and let's say 20. So what is this going to do? When the code runs, it's going to run through here and it's going to see that we called coolFunction. So it's going to go over here and then say, what number did they give us? Well, we gave the number 20. So it's going to put in 20 over here, and then it's going to put the 20 in as I. And if 20 is less than 21, then it's going to return true. But in this case, 20 is less than 21. So it's going to return true. But let's say if we inputted 40, then it's going to return false. Because if we put 40 in here, 40 is not less than 21. So it's going to return false. Now, if we wanted to like print that true or false statement, how do we make that happen? Well, we're going to make this coolFunction equal to something. We're going to make it equal to a Boolean and let's say example. So now what is this saying? This is basically saying that we're going to make this, we're going to run coolFunction with a parameter of 20, and whatever it results in, it's going to be what example is equal to, and which is a Boolean type, right? So for example, if we run coolFunction 20 here, we're going to put 20 in, and then it's going to return 20 is less than 21, which is true. So this whole thing is going to be true. In that case, example is going to be true. And since our result is going to be a true or false, we're going to have to assign a Boolean variable to example as well. So now if we run this, what are we going to get? So let's say we do .NET run. We don't get anything. That's because I trolled you guys. Now the reason I trolled you is the computer did this whole process. It knows that this should result in true. But why did it not print? Well, it's because we didn't make it print. So how should we do that? We should write console.writeLine and then example. Because example is what's over here. So now let's go through this entire thing again, just to like revisit. So we had we made a coolFunction method over here, okay? And basically what this is saying is we're going to take an input of a Boolean, and the parameter is going to be an integer value. Or sorry, the output is going to be a Boolean, but we're going to take the input of an integer value, and we're going to run it through our code. And either it results in true or false. And whatever results in, that's what example is going to be equal to. And example is also Boolean, so that's possible, right? So let's say if example is false, then if it's false over here, we're going to get a result of false. But if example is true, we're going to get a result of a true. So let's control save and run this again. .NET run. We're going to get true. See? So let's change up the number again. Let's say instead of 20, we had an input of 50. So if we save it and we run it again, now we're gonna get false. Really? So yeah, we're gonna get false. So that's what we thought was gonna happen. Let's try and look at another example, okay? So this is just one method that we just created right now. Let's try and create another method. Okay, so let's do one more example with methods. So instead of last time where we take an input, let's just try and result an output, or like give an output. So let's say my goal this time was just to like execute some type of text, right? So let's make a method for that. So for this, we can make a method like basically like static void and then cool method. And in this method, let's try and result in like just text as an output. So we can write console and then write line, and then let's say I love C#. I don't really, but it's a nice language. Okay. Basically, what is this gonna do? Now, void just results in an output, okay? And cool method is the name of the whole function, right? And then what's gonna happen is we're gonna print out I love C# because that's what this is all resulting in. Now let's try to reference this method in our public static void main. So how do we do that? In this case, we can just literally just call upon cool method, write the two parentheses, and then we have a semicolon at the end. So now if we control save this, or control S and save, if we do .NET and then run, what are we going to get? We're going to get I love C#. So what happened in this case? What happened is when you reference cool method this time, there's no parameters, so they're not looking, the code isn't looking for anything to like check, right? So what is it going to do? It's going to just execute whatever is in this this method. And now what's in the method? Well, in the method we wrote that we want to execute the line I love C#, and that's exactly what happened. It wrote I love C#. Okay, so that's it for methods and functions. Let's check out the next topic. Okay. Okay guys, so now I want to cover conditions, and I think conditions will be really easy. It's just really like simple arithmetic, and it's probably common sense, but I'll show it how to do it in code. So let's say if we had like two variables or two integer variables. Let's say we had int monkey is equal to like 10, and let's say int let's say savage is equal to like 21. Okay, now we can make a condition. So we can basically say if monkey is greater than savage, then we can print out, so we can do console dot write line I love 21 savage. Okay, cool. Okay, so if monkey is greater than savage, we have to print out I love 21 savage. But the thing is, we can change this to whatever we want. We could say greater than or equal to, or we could say less than or equal to, or we could say if monkey is equal to savage, right? Another thing we could actually do is we could expand this parentheses even further. So we could say if monkey is greater than savage, and let's say if we had another integer variable, let's say if we had int little baby or something, and his number was like 29, okay? So if monkey is greater than savage, and we can add something else, so we could say like, we could add another parentheses here, and we could say like if monkey is greater than savage, and if monkey is also greater than little baby, then this prints out. Or we could switch it up and we could say if monkey is greater than savage, or if monkey is greater than little baby, then we can print out this I love 21 savage line. Okay, now let's cover if statements. So basically, if statements is basically like, let's say if monkey is greater than savage, but if monkey isn't greater than 21 savage, what else is gonna happen? So if monkey is greater than savage is not true, then we have the else statement here, and then in our else statement we could write something else. We could say like console write line, and I hate 21 savage. Okay. Right, so if monkey is greater than savage, this is going to print out. If that's not true, we're going to go into the else command, and this is going to print out. Now, if-else statements are really important because let's say you're making a game on Unity, right? We could, like, when you're adding special effects, you could think of it like this. Let's say if like the hit points of one character of like the health of one character is below 500, then special powers could be activated for the character. So those are instances where stuff like if-else statements could be useful for. Like, let's just run this right now. .net run, and let's see what it results in. Well, it results in that I hate 21 Savage, and that's what we had over here. But let's switch it up. Let's say if monkey was like 500, and let's save this, and then let's run it again. .net run. What do we get? We result in I love 21 Savage. So that's very interesting, very cool. Has a lot of cool applications. Alright, let's get to the next topic now. Alright, so now we're going to learn about array lists. So let's just cover that. So when you're making array lists, you can actually like make them to hold strings, integers, Boolean values, literally anything you want. You just have to specify it. But usually the most common thing people use it for is like for strings and integers, because at certain points just storing data like via like this way is like really easy. So let's just introduce it right now. So if we had int, and then you do these brackets, and then int array. You can name it anything you want, but int array, like when you're learning, is just like a common like thing that people use, like a name that people use. And then you do new int brackets, and then you can now you can store however many, like whatever values you want in here, you know. So you can add whatever you want, and it stores every value you add. But the problem with this is once you create it once you create this line in your code, when you're playing, you can't be able to change this like set of values, right? So like even if like the player, let's say you wanted to have like a function or like a part in your game where the player has to input like a certain value or has to input a certain thing, you can't change like the values in this array. So you use a different way. Instead of like using this, like doing it this way, you use what are called lists. So let's say you have a list, and then in this list you specify the type again. So we have a list and it's made of integers. You can call it whatever you want again, but we can just call it int list here. And then you start it off again, so the same way. So new list and then int. So you're just defining a new list of integers, and then here at the end you put the parentheses this time, because basically like what this is saying is like it's like changeable, like you can input more values, right? So you're gonna have to put the parentheses, and then at the end you can put whatever values you want and so on, right? And now what the cool thing about this list is that you can add to the list, right? So let's say you had a point in your game where the player had to input a certain number and you want to store that number. Well, now you can store it, right? How can you store it? You can do int list, and then there's this function called add. So, and then you can add whatever number you want. So let's say I want to add like 10. It's gonna add 10 to int list, which is what I created over here. Or let's say I made another list. So let's say I made like list of integers of boring list or something. Then new list. Sorry. And then I do int. And then let's say I had more values. Now, let's say I wanted to remove a number from this list. How could I do that? So instead of add, I could do boring list dot remove, and I can remove any number I choose from here. So let's say I chose that number, I can remove that number now. So this is why this is a cool thing to know. Instead of int over here, you could also change it into strings. So if you like change into the string, and then you can put in string values over here. So instead of 1, 2, or 3, or 4, you could like do quotation marks Amy, comma, quotation marks Bob, and so on. So yeah. Now after this, I'm going to show you how you can like loop through all these numbers. So alt and print, right? So how do you do that? Now we're going to cover loops. Unlike the other syntax we learned before, like the syntax like these lists, or like public static void, that could be different depending on the programming language. But one thing that's always usually the same is loops and how they're written. And loops are very important, not just for game development. They're used really heavily in like software development. So if you're good at this, that's pretty nice. Okay, so first thing, let's make an objective. And now the objective is, let's try and print out all of these numbers, right? Now, on first instinct, you might think like you could just make a bunch of console.writeLine statements and just print all those. But instead of doing that, you could actually just like get all those numbers via like 2 to 3 lines of code. Because like imagine if you had like 1,000 numbers, right? 1,000 to 2,000 numbers, you won't be able to like individually type out console.writeLine and then all those. Instead, you do it a different way. Okay, so so the first way you could do it is in C# you use for each, right? So you do for each, and then int I in int list, because that's the list we're trying to get right now. And then the swirly brackets, and then console.writeLine, and then I at the end. Okay, so let's just analyze this real quick. What is this piece of code trying to say? Basically, it's saying that for each integer I in int list, so in our integer list right here, every I, so like every I is like every number in here, we're gonna print out. So let's just run it and see what happens. So .NET and then run. So what do we get? We get 1, 34, 123, 132, and 10. So we get 1, 34, 123, 132, and since we added 10 before, we also get that. So, I mean, that's what we thought would happen, and that's what happened. So, that's pretty cool. Okay, so now let's look at another way of writing that. So, instead of this way, there's this. The way I'm gonna show you right now is used a lot more commonly. It's a bit like more complicated to write, but it's just a lot more flexible. So how you do it is you say for int I equals 0, and I'll explain each part in a bit, so give me a sec. So for I int equals 0, and I is less than int list, because that's the list we're targeting right now, dot count basically counts how many numbers are in the list, right? And then finally I++. Now I'll give me a sec, I'll just explain what that means. So okay, let's just start at the beginning. So int I equals 0, so I starts at 0. Okay, first starting number is 0. Next thing you gotta understand is when I is less than int list.count. Int list.count basically means in this int list, how many numbers are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a count of 4. And I++ basically means after you're done going through the code once, you keep increasing until you're done. So let's continue this piece of code and it should make more sense. So you do console dot write line, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do I plus, and then quotation marks with the space in between, and then plus int list I. Okay, so let's analyze this step by step, and it should be really easy if we analyze it step by step, right? Okay, so we start at int I equals 0, okay? And then after that, we have to check if I is less than int list count. So if we start at 0, so we have 0 over here, okay? And now what is the int list count? What is the count of this list? There is 1, 2, 3, 4. So is 0 less than 4? Yes, it is. So we go through this piece of code at least once, okay? So when we go through this piece of code, what do we get? Okay, well, I, which is our starting number, is 0. So we get 0 plus a space. So we get 0 space and then int list 0. And we have to remember that int lists, they start at the number 0. So this is actually not the first number. That's the 0th number. So what it's going to print out is it's going to print out 0 and then 1. Okay? And then we're going to go to the next step. And then what's going to happen is it's going to do I++. So since we're at 0, it's going to go from 0 to 1. Okay, now it's going to check again. Is 1 less than int list.count? So is 1 less than 4? It is. So we go through this again, and then we keep going through it again. We keep going until we get to I equals 4. When I equals 4, you can't go anymore. So that's the last time it prints. So let's just print it once, and then we can analyze it again. Okay. So .NET, and then run. Okay. So these are the numbers that appear, and this is exactly what we wanted. Okay, so because the first number is 1, or the second number is 34, the third number is 123, and so on. So let's just analyze this again. Okay, so we start at I equals 0. So I equals 0, right? And then since we start at I equals 0, and 0 is less than int list count. The int list count is 4, so 0 is less than 4, right? So we go through this whole line. And what does this line say? This line says I, and what is I? 0. And then we have a space, and that's what happened. There's a space here. And then plus int list I, and I is still 0. So what is int list 0? Int list 0 is 1. Okay, so we have 1 over here. And then after that, you do I++. So instead of 0, it's 0 plus 1. So now I is equal to 1. So now since I is equal to 1, let's go through the whole loop again. Is 1 less than int list.count? Yes, it is. 1 is still less than 4, okay? So then we go through this entire line again. So I is 1, so we have 1 over here. And then int list of 1 is 34. And that's what happened over here. We have 34. And then we go through that again. We add another 1 to the one we had. So now I is equal to 2. Okay. Now is I less than 2? Is 2 less than 4? Because I is 2, right? Is 2 less than 4? Yes, it is. So we go through this line again. So now we have I, which is 2, plus int list I. And what is int list I? Int list I is int list 2 this time. And int list 2 is 123. And we get 123 over here. So we keep doing that until we get to the last number when I is equal to 4. And when I is equal to 4, 4 is no longer less than 4, which is the amount of integers in this list. So what happens then is you're just done. You don't go to the next line, and then so you don't continue any further. The whole sequence ends. So yeah, that's the other type of loop, and that's the more commonly used one. And later on we're probably going to use that one. In the beginning it might be confusing, but if you think it through logically, it'll be really simple, I promise you. I just want you guys to like test that out. So try different numbers, make your own lists, okay? And then try that like thinking process out. You only get better at coding if you like try to think through it yourself as well. So try and make your own list and try and think through that process, okay? Okay, so now let's go to the next topic. Okay, so I was gonna cover classes, but I think it's better to cover classes while we are actually in Unity, because that you can just like grasp the concept much easier. Look out for the next 2 to 3 days. I'm gonna send like a full video or another video on like the fully installation process and the softwares you should get on Unity. And next week again, I'm gonna do another video like this, but for the basics of Unity, because I think if we just do another video, it'll be much easier to understand. But then the week after that, we're probably gonna go live again. Yeah. Okay. Also, out of all the stuff we just covered today, just go through it, like maybe not today, but tomorrow, or not like 2 days from now, and just see if you still like remember it, and try to like make your own try to like fill an objective, right? Go through everything, make sure you understand. Yeah. Well, that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys have a nice day. Well, yeah. All right. Bye.